mean, $150 shares, more than 30.
Welcome, everybody. We'll start in a couple minutes. Some of the other programs have just ended and people are starting to arrive. So thank you for your patience, and you're looking forward to something special here.
Okay. Right. Okay. Let's hope for the best. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Yeah, 5,000 is fantastic.
I think he said he
No, I
doesn't
don't
have
even
an
get
opening
5,000
slide,
take-home pay, actually.
so
I think we're
he
fine.
just has the video on there, which is fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Would you like to sit? Or sit over here.
Right. Yes. Right.
You missed the
All right,
excitement.
friends, we're delighted to have this fourth and last sponsor time together with none other than AAMI. So let's begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle McGeary, and I'm the Vice President of Healthcare Technology Management at AAMI. Today, I'll be talking about some projects that AAMI has executed over the past year to help elevate and promote the healthcare technology management field. Before we get started, I just wanted to sincerely thank the IFMBE Clinical Engineering Division and the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance for putting this fine event together. AAMI is so excited to be part of the fourth ICE HTMC Congress, and we're honored to be here today giving a presentation and honoring all the fine work that all our clinical engineering professionals do across the world. Just before we get started, because this is an international audience, I know we use different terminology across the world. And just so there's no confusion, when we refer to the field as HTM, it is the same thing as clinical engineering. The words are synonymous in our book. We just call it something slightly different. But I just wanted to make sure that, we're all talking about the same thing. So with that, I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about AAMI. I'm going to go through 7 projects that can help the field. I'm going to talk about the new HTM Levels guide for how you can rank and assess your program. And then we're going to open it up for some questions. So what is AAMI? We bring together an international healthcare audience, and we really support the whole entire continuum of the medical device, from concept all the way to the creation, to when it's in the hospital, to the point where it's decommissioned. And we also do a lot of work in sterilization as well. And when we say sterilization, we mean industrial sterilization in industry, and also sterilization, central sterile, as many of us know it in hospitals. So a lot of the work that we do at AAMI is we develop standards. That's the largest part of our organization. We have over 200 standards committees that, again, goes across the whole continuum of the medical device life cycle, from the research and development and clinical use as well. And also we have our HTM standards, such as the Medical Equipment Management Plan standard that we call EQ56. We also are known for our certifications. We have a lot of sterilization certifications, but we also have our main HTM or clinical engineering certifications. We have the Certified Biomedical Technician, the CBET. We have the Certified Radiology Technician, which is the CRES. We also have our Certified Manager in Healthcare Technology Management, our CHTM. And we also have just launched a new entry-level certification called the CAB-T, which is the Certified Associate in Biomedical Technology. So it's for entry-level professionals that's entering the field, so they can also obtain a certification right from the start of their career. We also do a lot of education and training. We have an annual conference every year in June. And we also put on various different seminars throughout the year. We offer lots of live webinars, and we also do leadership development training as well. We have a slew of online publications that are available to all of our members, such as AAMI News, Biomedical Instrumentation and Technology, our journal called Horizons, and many other. We also have a blog. If you don't follow us on social media, check us out. We have many online communities as well, where members can chat and post questions about problems, needing advice, and just talking with peers who are maybe going through the same thing that they are. We also have a mentorship program and a career center where you can post positions, and people looking for work can also post their resume. So that is all available to all of our members. So we represent close to 10,000 members now, which is really exciting all across the world. They represent manufacturers, clinicians, HTM or clinical engineering professionals, and educators. We also work closely with the regulatory, the FDA, CMMS, the Joint Commission, DNV. So, we have a great connections across the board of healthcare. We do reach about 55,000 professionals annually between just people signing up for a single course or maybe taking a certification. And we are a small operation based in Washington, D.C. We're 45 people. A majority of our staff is the standard staff. And I am the HTM department at AAMI right now. And I like to just mention that our army of people that help us are our volunteers. We cannot do what we do without our volunteers. And everything that I'm going to talk about today in these projects had an army of volunteers behind it. We do have two HTM committees, specifically the Healthcare Technology Leadership Committee, the HTLC, and the Technology Management Council, the TMC. And those are two groups that we take new members for every year in the spring. You do have to apply. But, these groups are really behind a lot of the resources that we put out. So there is a commitment if you want to do it, but it is very rewarding and it's a great way to give back to the field. And really, we can't execute what we execute without all of these people who donate their time to AAMI. So we are just so grateful for our volunteers. And again, if you're ever looking to get involved, you can shoot me an email at htm@aami.org. So moving on to the 7 resources that I think you all would find most interesting. First and foremost is our succession planning guide that we just put out this year. As we know, in the United States, 50% of the HTM population is over the age of 50. That includes our technicians, managers, and clinical engineers. So we're going to have a mass exodus of people in the next 10 to 15 years, and we really need to start planning for that now. Succession planning is a huge part of HTM leadership. And we know that no one is forever in any organization, and we should be planning ahead as to how we're going to backfill every position in your department, from entry level all the way up to senior leadership ahead of time, because we shouldn't be panicking when someone suddenly resigns and doesn't come back to work. So basically, a succession plan provides a clear roadmap for how we're going to do that, whether that's cross-training, having your own training programs within your department. I know for bigger departments, it's much easier to do this than smaller departments, but you need to have a plan. And succession planning is also a big part of retention. When employees see that they have a clear trajectory to a promotion and it's clear and it's done fairly, employees are more likely to stay. So it is really important that you talk with your staff and understand their wants and where they want to go. And this guide comes with an interactive form at the end of it. All of this can be found on our website at aami.org. It is free to our members. There's a minimal cost to non-members. But basically, this form allows you to go through every position on your staff, what their specialty skills and training are, what their next promotion could be, their readiness to move. So maybe, if someone left, you could promote them tomorrow, or maybe they need a few more skills before you're ready to make that move. So then you can clearly talk with them and let them know, well, okay, maybe you need some budget and finance training if you want to move into a management position. Or maybe if you want to move from a BMET 1 to a BMET 2, you need more networking training. So it's just really important that you lay out a clear pathway with your staff. And it's also important to understand what your employees don't want as well. Some technicians are very happy working on medical equipment and don't want to be managers, and that is totally fine. But as a manager, you should not have that person set to take a management position if they don't want it, because then your succession plan isn't really working. So this template is available online. Please go and take advantage of it. It's also a great way to identify training gaps. If you have a large clinical engineering or HTM department, you can look through and see, well, hey, I don't have a backup person trained in respiratory. So it's really a good tool to use that way as well. The next guide to kind of complement the succession planning guide is the HTM training guide. This was built off of AAMI's core competency guide. It basically lists every competency that an entry-level technician should know. So if you're starting a training program, whether it's for interns, volunteers, co-ops, college students, this basically lists everything that you would need to know to be a successful BMed or clinical engineer. It is built to the US regulatory standards. So if you are using this guide internationally, just be aware that you may have to swap out some things depending upon what the individual rules and regulations are for the country in which you are working. But as for competencies for working on medical equipment, a majority of this will still apply. And it's a great way to invest in new employees and make sure that you're training them comprehensively and not missing anything. And I can't stress enough, when you invest in your employees, they are much more loyal to you. So when we're talking about retention, it's just so important. And obviously we want all technicians trained safely. So this guide was built off of the BMed apprenticeship that we recently launched. It was vetted by over 100 HTM professionals in the United States. It's very comprehensive. And the best part about it is it's really scalable. So if you only have someone working with you for a couple months, you may want to go through it. It's 13 pages worth of competencies and maybe omit some of the things that maybe are more high level to really, and you can also scale it to make it your own as well. So this is kind of an example of what one of the pages looks like, going over basic training for medical equipment. So you kind of see general, it's broken out into areas, and you can see otoscope, ophthalmoscopes. You can document when they were trained, if they demonstrate fundamental skills, if they're proficient, and when you felt that they were proficient. And what's really great is that if you train them at your facility, you can give them this paperwork and they can take it with them if they go somewhere else. So a future employer will know that they were trained as well, because obviously we want people properly trained who are working on our medical equipment. The medical equipment servicing guide was released last year as well. This is a great guide if you're really just trying to start out a servicing program, or if you really want to take your existing medical device servicing program to the next level. This guide is 100% agnostic, meaning we don't care who's servicing it. Doesn't matter if it's the manufacturer, an OEM, an independent service organization, a third party, or an in-house HTM department. We just care that we're servicing things properly, efficiently, and effectively. So this guide really talks about how to really collaborate better across your medical center with different departments, working with facilities, supply chain, IT, finance. And it really talks about how to organize your program strategically, minimize cost without sacrificing quality. It does touch a little bit about putting things on an AEM, but we also have a separate AEM guide if you want to go into more details with that. So no matter where you are in your organization, in your clinical engineering department, this guide will be helpful for you, whether you're brand new, just want to learn about proper ways to service, while maintaining compliance, cost, and quality, or if you're a manager, again, trying to really, embellish your existing servicing program. And again, this is available in the store. It is at a cost to everyone. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is our brand new PM compliance and definitions guide. This resource is free to all AAMI members and available at a minimal cost to non-members. This really aligns with the new guidelines of CMS. A few years ago, they came out and said we needed to complete 100% of PMs. And, that really left a lot of clinical engineering professionals really saying, well, how are we going to do that? Medical equipment's mobile. We can't always find everything. It's impossible to say we've PM'd 100% of everything every time. So basically, this really breaks down talking about the difference between a completed PM and a compliant PM. Obviously, you have to close all your work orders to be compliant, but you should never say that you completed a preventative maintenance on a device if you never did the PM. That's false documentation and bad from a compliance perspective. But this guide really breaks down different scenarios, regarding, what if, a ventilator is on a patient and it's dangerous to remove it, we can't get to it during the month that it's due. Or, we know there's a lot of mobile equipment in hospitals that's hard to find. And sometimes maybe it's lost or stolen, or you just can't find it. So this talks about, even if you can't complete the PM, how it can still be compliant if it's still well managed, meaning, you have a policy in place, you've looked for the device, you've worked with nursing, you've documented properly, so you can close the work order and still say that you've done all you can, but you're not saying that you physically did the PM if you couldn't find the device. And, here in the United States, if it's, many of our regulatory bodies, if you have a policy in place and you're following it, a lot of times, they understand. And this has been vetted by the Joint Commission and DMV here in the United States. And they had no concerns with it. So definitely check it out. Even if you're not working here in the United States, it's really a great guide to really develop your own policy for what you do when you can't find equipment, or, if it's on a patient. So we really walk through all those different scenarios. The next thing is really how to get recognition within your medical center from, your medical center's leadership or your hospital's leadership. How to really emphasize your value. And, clinical engineering professionals, or HTM professionals, are really part of the clinical care team in hospitals. But we're often undervalued. People don't know what we do. They don't understand our jobs. And this is a great guide to really talk you through how to get the recognition that, that you deserve. And it goes through a 3-step approach, such as sharing good information with leadership, aligning your department initiatives with the hospital's initiatives. There's over 30 tips and tactics that the guide goes through. And this was developed by the Healthcare Technology Leadership Committee. Some of them are most senior volunteers in clinical engineering. And it also shows an annual report to use, a template for, things to report out to hospital leadership that they care about. You often find, hospital leaders don't really care that you did 100% of PMs. They just, obviously they do, but they care how that translates into patient safety, quality of care, patient access. So when you're talking about, what you're doing for the medical center, you really kind of need to shift your pitch and really tie it back to the metrics that hospital leadership really care about, and make them understand how your work directly impacts patient care. And this guide really goes through that really comprehensively. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, there is a couple that we cropped out a couple of the suggestions, such as creating a mission statement for your department and aligning your HTM goals or clinical engineering goals with the hospital's goals. The next resource that came out this year is our CMMS collaborative white paper. So I don't know if we use CMMS as the acronym across the world, but Computerized maintenance management system is what that stands for. And basically that is the software where you document all of the work you do on the medical equipment. So your preventative maintenance, your corrective maintenance, anything else you may do to the medical equipment, and so on and so forth. And this comes up a lot, that there's really no standardization to how we're collecting data. So it's really hard to, benchmark or make decisions as a field for, PMs, AEMs, and things of that nature. So what we did this year was all of the major CMMS vendors, who are technically competitors, came together this year. These are all the major vendors in the United States. I know some of them do offer international products as well. Came together, and you can see them on the left-hand side of the screen to really solve this problem. And what we looked at was failure codes. So when, a repair or PM fails, what happened and how are we coding that? Because if we can look at this consistently across the board, across all medical devices, we can get bigger data and make bigger decisions off of that. So the group got together and analyzed over 2.5 million work orders from various hospitals across the United States. All of the work orders were anonymous. We don't know where they came from or what organizations. We just looked at the work order and the failure code. And from that, we came up with a list of 13 failure codes that we recommend using in your computer, in your CMMS system. So what we wanted to create, this group, was a list that was expansive enough that covered every type of scenario, but not so extensive that it was overwhelming as to which failure code to choose. So definitely check out this white paper. It is on our website and it is free to everyone. We are currently in phase 2 of the project right now, working on standardized work order types. So, PM, CM, cybersecurity, for instance, what we call the types of work orders so we can filter them better. And we would love for people to use this, and we'd love to hear your feedback about it if you are using it. So it is out there. This is our recommendation from Amy and the team. And we're really grateful to all of the CMMS vendors who participated in this project. Last but not least is the HTM Levels Guide. This is a resource that has been at AAMI since 2013, but we're now on the 3rd edition. And what we did this year is we made it an online assessment. We also updated the physical guide that is updated in the AAMI store for free. In the HTM Levels Guide, online assessment is free to all members. And what it does is you go in and you answer 35 questions or 38 questions in 11 different categories. And you can see them: program scope, compliance, project management, equipment maintenance and technology management, staff development, tactical and strategic technology planning, performance monitoring and performance improvement, patient and staff safety, internal and external relationships to your medical facility, IT and medical device integration, and cybersecurity. The last 2 areas regarding IT and cybersecurity are new. We wanted to make sure, as the field is constantly evolving with what we do as CE and HTM professionals, we wanted to make sure that the guide covered everything. So basically, you log on HTM Levels at aami.org, and you take this assessment, and the assessment will rank you from level 1 to 5. Getting a 5 is very hard. Most HTM departments will score 3 or 4. And it's a really great way to really look for opportunities for improvement. It gives you a grade in each individual section, which is much more important than your overall score, because you may improve in a couple sections, but your overall score may not change that much. But it's a great way to take it, kind of see where you rank amongst your peers. Everything that's listed to get a level 5 is being done by someone somewhere, so we know it can be accomplished. But in order to get a 5, you need to do the highest thing in every category. So that's what really makes it a challenge. So definitely log on to htmlevels.aami.org and check it out. And hopefully this will really help elevate the field, let you know what your peers are doing, how you rank, and what you can do to constantly improve what resources you're offering. So with that, that is the end of my presentation today. Again, thank you to IFMBE, CED, and Global Clinical Engineering Alliance for involving AAMI in your event this year. It's such an honor to work together and be part of this. So thank you to everyone out there. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation today. And if you ever need anything, you can always reach me at htm@aami.org. And again, my name is Danielle McGeary. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. That was a great presentation. Danielle could not be here in person today, so I'm a poor substitute. For those of you that didn't see me earlier in the event, I'm the Senior Vice President of Education at AAMI, Robert Burrows. I have other staff with me, including Sherry Schulte, our VP of Education. So if there are any questions, a little bit different height going on here. If there are any questions, I'm not going to do that permanently. If there are any questions that you have about Danielle's presentation, resources or education or training that we provide, certification, et cetera, we'll hold for just a few minutes. We've got a few minutes before the transition at 3 o'clock to answer any of those questions. So just pop them into the Q&A or into the chat, and I'll be happy to answer those as best I can, or call on Sherry. Here, we've got one question coming in. And I'll just read, looks more like a comment. So maybe there's a question at the end, but excellent presentation. Suggestions: work with device manufacturers to include with the purchase of the device standardized problem incident failure codes that are specific to their technology, and B, have an evidence base for the codes and indicate what resolution codes correspond to the incident. Service analytics capability should be part of the purchase. Good observation. Thank you very much, Fred. And so let me see if there are any other questions or comments. Did you have one? Absolutely. Come on in.
Good afternoon. I'm not as tall as Robert, so I think, can you see my face or? Yeah. All right, okay. So,
Go ahead.
Well, I'm Shankar Krishnan. I'm the chair of, I'm the president of IFMBE. You can see Robert is bigger than me. I just want to congratulate Danielle on a very nice presentation. I think it was very comprehensive. I do want to also congratulate and compliment Robert and his team of all the persons, because it is very nicely put together, in a short time to convey. And having worked in hospitals, different countries, including Mass General in Boston, I would say that these are very valuable resources. And by having membership in AAMI, I think if it's the requirement to get these resources, it's really very useful, because these are not easily available. And if you take courses in universities, these may not be available also. And this is really good. And then when you come to a conference like this, you can also exchange and ask questions and highlight the problems you encountered with any specific device or a system. And with high technology coming in, with telemedicine and so on, and digital health, I think these resources would be helpful, and they are addressing practical issues. Now they listed 7, but there may be more coming.
There's more. There's
Okay.
more. And an endorsement from you on all of it is
Okay.
fantastic. So thank you.
All the best to you. I
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate being a part of this and supporting IFMBE. So thank you very much. You can't do better than that. Let me see. There's a couple of other questions. It looks like. Nope. I think that's it in terms of open questions. So we have a thanks, Tom and Yadine. So it's a couple of minutes before 3 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and end this session unless there are any other questions or comments, so that you can join our 3 o'clock session, 3 o'clock East Coast time in the United States, exactly as scheduled. So going once, going twice, sold. Thank you very much.